Hey guys, and welcome back to English Hacks, the webinar series. And this is day 4. And day 4 is called The Small Stuff Makes a Big Difference. And I think you guys are really going to like what you learn in this lesson today. So, you guys probably remember me from yesterday or from any of the other webinars that you've been to with me, or maybe you've taken lessons with me too. My name is Kris Huntley, also known as Kris Amerikos, and I'm here because I love to teach English. And my website is english.krisamerikos.com, and you can contact me at any of the places that you see on your screen right now. So let's get into it. And today we're going to talk about a couple things before we answer any of our questions that we have planned for today. And the first thing that we're going to talk about is generic you. Generic you. So what does it mean? You can be used the same as the word one in English. And no, I'm not talking about the number one. I'm talking about the pronoun one. So no, we can't say you, 2, 3, 4. We still say 1, 2, 3, 4. But we can use the words you and one in a similar way, and I'm going to show you what I mean. For example, you can ask the question, how does one get to the bank? Or you can ask the question, how do you get to the bank? So these are two different things, and the word you is less formal. It's more informal. And that's why we say you more often, because you is more conversational and one is more formal. We actually use this a lot. So what we're saying here is not you specifically, we're saying any person in the world. So when someone asks you, how do you get to the bank? They're not asking, how do you get to the bank differently than other people? No, what they're asking is, how does anyone get to the bank? How does one get to the bank? All right? That's what it means. It's exactly the same if we ask, how does one get to the bank? Or if we ask, how do you get to the bank? There are also some other common phrases that we use that use the generic you. For example, how do you pronounce this word? Or how do you say this in your language? Or what do you call this? Or where do you go to buy medicine? So when you're asking these general questions, remember to use you, the generic you that we're talking about here. And that will sound much more conversational. Then we also need to talk about singular they. And what does it mean, singular they? They is always more than one, right? So how can they be singular? Well, we can use they about one person if we don't know who that person is. So some examples are, everybody take out their books. Okay? Everybody take out their books. We know that everybody, when we use the word everybody, it's like one. So we say everybody is, right? But everybody take out their books, because we're talking to lots of different people. We're not talking to one specific person. We don't know which person is going to do this, okay? Each person brought their own lunch. This means that we're talking about one person because each always talks about one, but each of those people has his or her own lunch. So think about it like that. Instead of saying his or her all the time, we say they. Now, we don't just say he or his about a person we don't know. We say they instead. It's much more correct. So let's consider this dialogue. A secretary says, someone came in to see you. And the boss says, what did they want? And the secretary says, they wanted to ask you a question. And the boss answers, did you tell them to leave a message? We started with someone. We understand that it's one person, someone. And then we asked, what did they want? Because we don't know exactly who this someone is. They wanted to ask you a question. Again, we don't know who this someone is, but it is one person, and we still use the pronoun they. And the boss asks at the end, did you tell them to leave a message? and he still understands that this is one person, but we use they when it's an unknown individual. Okay? So using generic you and singular they will definitely make you sound more natural. And here is one of the questions that we are going to answer today. And it is, what can I add to my speech to sound more fluent? And guys, this is a big question, so I'm definitely going to answer it for you, but there are a lot of things that you need to add to your speech to sound more fluent. We've talked about a lot of things already in the last 3 days, but I'm going to introduce some other ideas that you might not have thought about yet. And here's a big idea that I want you to remember. No matter what your level of English is right now, you can sound more natural. You don't have to have a huge vocabulary. You don't have to know more English than someone else. All right? A person who knows 500 words can sound more fluent than a person who knows 5,000 words. And you might be asking yourself, how is that possible? If I know 5,000 words, then I'm practically a native speaker, right? Not really. It's about pronunciation. It's about content and sounds and culture and psychology, like we've been talking about. It's about all of those things from day 2. And people who continue to do those things that we talked about in day 2, to make those mistakes, they don't sound fluent. They don't sound natural. They sound strange, and people probably think they act strange too, at least when they're communicating with English speakers, because they're not paying attention to what the language really is. It's something we use to communicate with other people. So someone who understands that on a deeper level might only know 500 words, but might be able to use them more fluently. The first thing that we need to add to our speech to sound more natural is confidence. So we need to remember that language is a behavior. Language is one type of behavior, and we can study behavior and we can understand behavior. And people can watch our behavior and learn things about us or pass judgment. That means they can judge us. They can think something good or bad about us. And we've already thought about that. We've talked about that in day 2. But being very confident can actually make people like you more, or think that you're better at a skill that you're not very good at. Just by being confident, you can really change people's minds about a lot of things. And when you're speaking a language and you are not a native speaker, it's really important to have confidence. It's extra important to have confidence, because people already think it's strange that you say some stuff differently, right? And they already think that you're going to give them a different perspective than usual. But if you don't push these ideas forward, if you don't say what you think, if you're always quiet, then they're not going to want to continue to communicate with you, to talk with you, right? Because it's not going to be so interesting to listen to you speak. So confidence is going to make your speech more interesting, even if you don't sound natural. And when people think your speech is more interesting, they're going to listen and they're going to communicate with you more. And when they listen and communicate with you more, it will make you feel more confident. And feeling more confident will help you speak more naturally. Okay, so you see, it's all one big circle. It all starts with you getting confidence and trying to speak. And even if you feel embarrassed, and even if you fall down on your face, and you feel like an idiot sometimes, if you make lots of mistakes when you're speaking, don't worry about it. That's the process to becoming more fluent and more natural speaking. All right? Your confidence level should be very, very high, even before your level of English is high. So in order to speak more naturally, we need to understand how people behave when they speak the language. And confidence is not only about thinking that you're always right, or always saying your opinion, or never stopping talking. That's not confidence, actually. Those things are bad to do. What we want to do is we want to watch other people who appear confident. People who can lead conversations, people who other people listen to. We want to see what they do, how they behave, listen to their intonation, how they talk. We want to listen to those things and watch for those things. And then we want to copy them so that we can appear more confident. So we need to understand what people perceive as confident, as skilled, and as understandable behavior. In some countries, you need to be more fluent than in other countries in order to be considered an adequate speaker. So confidence is key. In countries where you don't have to be very fluent, if you know a few phrases or words, then everyone will accept you. This is also dangerous because they accept you and now they expect you to be able to meet the standards of all the other speakers, right? So when a country has high standards for what is fluent and what is adequate, then you need to do a lot of learning and studying before people will listen to you talk. Next, multiple dialogues. This is something that we can add to our speech as well. You should always have multiple topics to speak about. So in your head, when you're speaking to someone, think of the next topic. Think of what else you can say. And this will make it seem like you can transition between topics really quickly. Other people who are listening to you or other people who are communicating with you, they will think that you're really fluent because as soon as you stop talking about one topic, you jumped into the next topic. But be careful here, guys, because you don't want to force the situation in one direction or another. You want to allow a pause, allow a break between topics. All right? You just need to always be thinking about the next topic and always be thinking about different topics that you could talk about. Not that you have to talk about, not that you have to force other people to speak about with you, but topics that you could talk about. And something that'll really help you with this is learning transition phrases like, oh, by the way, or I forgot to tell you that, or that reminds me, or did I tell you about, or speaking of. So let's look at how this might go. I might be telling you about how to speak more naturally, and then I might say something like, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you that you also. So I might be telling you how to speak more naturally or something like that, and then I might say, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you that Mark called me yesterday. Yeah, he also wants to speak more naturally. Okay, so you see how this transition happens? We're speaking in a normal way, and then we change our voice, we change the topic, and there's a special place in the sentence where we do this. So we need to wait for the right moment. So start using these transition phrases, and people will think that you sound more fluent and more natural. Another thing that you can add to your speech is checking for understanding. So in real life, people mishear others or don't completely hear what they said all the time. When we aren't sure that we've heard someone correctly, we ask questions to check that the information received is correct. You know, when someone is speaking to you and you say, sorry, what did you say? Something like that. This is what we're talking about, checking for understanding. And it doesn't have to be a question. We could just repeat what someone says. So let's look at some examples. I went to the bank this morning and now I'm home. Sorry, when are you going to the bank? So here the person said a sentence, said some information, and some of the information from this sentence I repeat back to them to check that I understood it correctly. And of course, if I ask this question, sorry, when are you going to the bank? This is not about what they told me. They told me they already went to the bank, right? So here I didn't listen to them correctly. I didn't hear them correctly, and I got the wrong information. So checking for understanding is good because now they can say, no, that's not what I said. And this is not a sign that you don't know anything or that you're stupid or that you can't hear them or something like that. This is a sign that you are listening and you want to make sure that you heard correctly. So people often ask a completely different question when they've misheard what you've said, like I just did. We might also say, I didn't catch that, or could you say that again? Or sorry, repeat that please. And another thing that we might do is just repeat the information back as we heard it. So in my example already, sorry, when are you going to the bank? I repeated back different information, but you could repeat the same information. For example, someone tells you, I'll be at the cinema at 12 o'clock. And I can repeat back, all right, so at 12 o'clock, you'll be at the cinema, right? And they'll say, yes, exactly. So by repeating it back to them or changing the way that they said it, but using the same words, something like this, then we check for understanding, and this is a very natural thing to do in communication. Next, don't explain everything. Native speakers don't always use long sentences and big words to explain what they want to communicate. Instead, many people use body language. So you need to start using the situation and using context to explain yourself more. So if someone asks you a question like, how much do you like pizza? Then you can put your hands up in the air, spread your hands apart from each other, and the more you spread them apart, so the wider that you try to show this thing, the bigger it will appear to the person, right? So we put our hands together, for example, and then we move them apart from each other to show that something is getting bigger and bigger. And we can say, I like pizza this much. And while I'm saying this much, when I'm saying that, I'm moving my hands apart from each other. So showing that it's getting bigger and bigger, right? So it means that I like it a lot. But I didn't use exact language. I didn't explain exactly how much I liked it. I showed something that communicated this message. So when you're eating something delicious and your friend asks how it tastes, you can just give them a thumbs up. You can just put your thumb up in the air and say, or you can say, it's great, right? That's another thing. Listen to what native speakers really say. Every English book seems to say the same words. Tasty. This food is very tasty. But guys, in the United States, nobody says this food is very tasty, at least not usually. So what we say instead is, it's good, or it's great. So we use this quality adjective, good, great, amazing, spectacular, wonderful, awesome. We use these words about food too. So when someone says, hey, how was the meal? It was great, thanks. And this is natural. So showing a thumbs up is more natural than finishing. And if we wanted to be really, really formal, then we could finish our food and we could look at the person who asked us how the food was and we can say, the food is exquisite. Thank you so much for your hospitality. That's if we want to sound very formal, right? Sometimes body language is more natural than spoken language. So don't forget to use it, guys, and use it together with your spoken language. The next thing, you need to get sidetracked. Okay? You need to get distracted. When people speak a language fluently, they think about ideas in their minds at the same time that they're speaking. And this means that they get distracted because they're focusing on the ideas in their minds and they forget what they're saying. So a lot of phrases that we can see in this situation are something like, oh, well, what was I saying? Or, anyway, what I wanted to say was, or to make a long story short, or, well, the point is, or, never mind, I forgot what I was saying. And I know it sounds funny that I'm telling you about all of these different things that you should do because to you, before we started this course, you probably thought that these are signs that somebody doesn't know a language. You probably thought that they were signs of, that these are things that you should avoid doing to speak more fluently. But no, it's actually the opposite. You need to do these things to sound more fluent because this is what fluent speakers of this language do. And people who are not fluent speakers, they don't do these things and they sound very robotic. They sound like a robot. They sound like a book. They do not use mistakes properly. Remember, you have to make your mistakes on purpose. There are some rules to follow when you're making mistakes. That's what we're talking about in this course. All right. So another thing that we can do is we can use fragment sentences or fragmented sentences. When people are speaking naturally, they don't think about complete sentences. They don't think about punctuation or subjects and objects or other things like that. So as a result, we usually have short, incomplete sentences that communicate one larger idea. People remember that they wanted to say something connected to what they're already talking about, and they want to say it before they forget it. Has that ever happened to you? I'm sure it has. That's why they add it in the middle of the sentence that's already started instead of finishing the first sentence and creating a second sentence. And I think I've done that a couple times during this course, even just today. Because when we're speaking, we're also thinking about things. And when we think about something good, we want to say it. And we want to say it before we forget it, right? So we might say it in the middle of one of our other sentences. Here's an example. And remember that this is spoken English. This is just how someone might talk without thinking so much about being correct. So here we go. It's like, I know you understand what I'm saying, but anyways, when I see you looking at me, well, I like looking at you, don't get me wrong, but when you look at me, I get nervous. Something makes me nervous about how you look at me. So yeah, that's basically it. Guys, do you see that there's not really a lot of useful content in here? There's a lot of extra words. And there's a lot of stopping and starting again. This is natural. This is how people really speak. Think about how you speak in your language. Another trick you can use is you can interrupt yourself. So it's okay to interrupt your own speech and change directions. When a new idea comes into your mind, you can just completely stop what you were saying before or interrupt yourself. And you can say that what you said before was wrong. Or you can just take the conversation in a different direction. So maybe we want to use different words to say what we've already been saying. So let's take a look at this example. You know, I really like... It's just, well, look, I'm not saying that I don't like you. It's just sometimes, no. Usually, yeah. Usually when we talk, there is, no, always. There's always someone around when we talk. So that might be very confusing, guys, because there's a lot of different ideas, and these ideas are all over the place. But honestly, we need to try to speak more like this. This is how people really speak in person. Of course, when we're writing the language and when we're in a formal conversation, when we're in a formal situation, we don't want to talk like this. Of course not. All right? But listen to how people talk and try to use some of these techniques to sound more fluent. Another thing that happens a lot with native speakers is that they will make a general reference to times or places or events to show that they don't remember the exact facts, or to show that they don't consider this information to be very important. So let me give you an example of this. Someone might ask you, when was the last time you saw him? And you can answer, it must have been about a month ago. It was definitely over a week ago, because somewhere around Wednesday of last week, we went shopping together. So yeah, more like 3-ish weeks ago, maybe even closer to 4. About a month, like I said. So all of these extra words and all these extra small details just to say the same thing that I said in the first sentence, right? So talking about these events, talking about the times and the places, this is something that happens a lot when we're making plans in English. And here's something that we don't necessarily need to add to our speech, but we need to think about it. It's volume. Most people don't have a problem with this, but some people speak too loudly or too quietly for a given situation. And it sounds really funny when we do this, guys. Because if someone asks you your opinion or your name or says nice to meet you, and then you talk really loudly, it's not going to be very nice. It's going to seem very rude, and it's going to seem like you're just really strange, you know? Like, even though they know that you're not from there, you're from a different country, people are just going to think you're strange. Why can't he control the volume on his voice? The other thing that sounds really, really weird when people do it is when they talk really quietly so that no one can hear them. And then later they usually say something like, I already told you that, or I already answered that question. But, you know, who could have heard them because they were whispering? So someone might ask, you know, where are you from? And they say, well, I'm from Argentina. And everyone says, what? Where? Argentina. What? I didn't hear you. Where did you say you're from? I'm from Argentina. I said I'm from Argentina. What's wrong with you? You can't hear? No. The problem is that you need to speak louder. You need to speak up. Speak clearly and speak with confidence. So people who have very little confidence and almost whisper when they speak, it makes other people have to ask them the question again and again and repeat themselves. So the problem here isn't that people don't understand you, it's that people don't hear you. Next, let's think again about our perspective and about the perspective of the people who we are talking to. If you feel like you don't know the right thing to say, or you can't find the right words for a difficult situation, first try to identify the real problem. There is probably a bigger problem, and people might not be discussing it. So try to find out what the real problem is before you talk to these people about what you think they should do, or your opinion, or anything like that. Number two, don't assume that you know what's going to happen next. So just because in your country, after people say one thing, they might do another thing, it doesn't mean that it's going to be the same in an English-speaking country. For example, I can tell you about when I lived in Russia and in the United States and compare these two. There's a funny saying that in Russia, yes means yes 100%, but no means maybe. And that in the United States, no means no 100%, but a yes means maybe. And the funny part here is that in Russia, there's a very strong tradition in society and a strong social idea that if you say yes, if you commit to something, if you give your word, that you have to do it. And if you don't, then people will think something bad about your character and think that you're a bad person. But on the other hand, in the United States, people change plans and don't do what they say all the time. So sure, there's still the same idea that this person, doesn't keep his word, something like that. We have a special adjective for these people. We call them flaky, that they don't follow through with their plans. He's a flaky guy. But still, it's not so important for people. People might actually think it's strange if you react strongly to this. So if they promised to meet you at 12 o'clock and then they didn't call you and change the plans, and at 12 o'clock they didn't come, and you call them and then they said, oh yeah, I had to do something else. If you overreact, if you react really strongly in this situation, then they're going to also find it very strange. They're not going to think that they did something wrong. They're just going to think, things change, plans change, and he needs to deal with it. So things are different in different countries. Don't assume that you know what's going to happen next. Be open, and don't assume that if someone does something differently than what you expect, that it's bad or wrong. Okay? You need to learn the culture as well as the language. So number three, find the right level of questions to ask. You don't want to be asking too many questions. You don't want to not ask enough questions. So listen to what other people do, how conversations usually flow. Because a conversation is not one person asking questions and another person answering. Conversation is sharing ideas back and forth between people. Number four, don't react with judgment. That's what we were already talking about. Don't judge that people might behave differently. And also, don't judge what people say. I had this issue several times where, I was explaining the idea to some students of what a party animal is. And if you don't know what a party animal is, it's a person who's the center of attention. They like to party. They always like to go to parties, and at a party they have lots of fun, and everyone knows them maybe. So this is called a party animal, a person who parties a lot. And a lot of my students said, I don't want to be an animal. That means something really bad. If you call somebody an animal, it's like they're not human. Okay, guys, maybe it's true in your culture or in your language, but in English it doesn't mean that at all. So don't judge phrases or words because you might not fully understand what that means. Next, resist the temptation to draw comparisons to your own painful experience. So if someone is talking about a situation and they want to do something or offer something to you, don't try to tell people that this is a bad idea because of something that happened to you. A lot of people are going to disregard or not listen to your experience or your opinion. And yes, that might sound terrible, might sound like, well, why wouldn't people listen to me? Why wouldn't they want to hear my opinion? My opinion is just as good as everyone else's, right? Yeah, it is. But a lot of people are going to say, well, this guy, if he's not from here, his experience probably isn't about me. So just in general, bringing in your own past experiences or talking too much about situations that can't be related to the people you're speaking to, this is only going to hurt you. It's only going to show how different you are, not how natural you are. Next, acknowledge the reality of other people's feelings. Even though something might not be very important to you or might not make you feel very emotional, it's not true that it's the same for other people. For me, for example, I think it's strange, a little bit strange, when people have huge emotional reactions to their pets passing away. So when their animal that they have at their house dies, some people really cry and make a big deal out of this, and they tell everybody they know, and they take off work and they stay at home, and some people really take it very seriously. I mean, for me, I feel bad when this happens, but at the same time, we have to continue with life, right? So for me, I don't think that this is a reason to get super upset, to be very sad, to be depressed. But other people do. And I need to acknowledge, I need to understand that this is the reality for those people, that it's very important to them, even if it's not important to me. Next, follow their lead. So other people who are native speakers, they probably are going to have some topics that they want to discuss. They're probably going to generate ideas, and you shouldn't try to fight their ideas, and you shouldn't try to lead the conversation all the time. When you lead the conversation all the time, they're going to feel like they can't say anything, and it's not going to be fun to be around you. Instead, you need to let them lead, and you need to follow them in the direction and let them lead the conversation and follow them there. And when you do this, it's going to be more interesting for them to talk to you. And then when you do speak, they're going to listen more. And they're not going to feel like you just talk all the time and you say a lot of useless things. Instead, they're going to feel like every time you talk, you say something important. And number 8, think about what a person needs to hear. So there are a lot of situations where someone might tell you about something that happened in their life, or some kind of story or joke or anything else, and there is a correct social response where we are supposed to laugh or smile or cry or say yay or aw or something else like that, right? We need to learn those situations. An example is if someone tells you that they lost their football match, or they lost a bet, or they lost a game, then we usually respond by saying something like, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that," or "Next time you'll win," or "Don't worry about it, I'm sure you played well," or something else like that. This is what we usually do in English when someone tells us sad news about how they failed or lost at something. And there are a lot of different situations with different emotions. So we should listen to what native speakers say in these situations so that we can also use them. And when those situations happen, and usually they happen very quickly, someone just mentions it and you're not prepared, then you'll be ready to give them the right answer, give them the right response. And phrasal verbs. And I know that we've talked about phrasal verbs a lot already, but there's really a lot to say about them, so you can never learn too much about phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs are something that we can add to our speech to sound more natural. And most phrasal verbs have at least 2 meanings. One is a direct meaning, and one is a metaphoric meaning. And to show you this, to explain this to you, I'm going to use the example phrasal verb to pick up, which has a lot of different meanings. So we understand that the verb to pick is similar to the verb to choose. When we pick or choose something, we take it. So to pick up in the direct meaning is to take something that's physically located on a lower surface than our line of sight. So for example, if we have something laying on the floor, then we can pick it up. And this means that we take it from the floor and bring it higher, bring it up to our level. This is to pick something up, right? But there are a lot of different metaphoric meanings too. For example, one metaphoric meaning is to go to a place and let a person get in your car for the purpose of traveling to another place. So to pick someone up from the airport, for example, or to pick someone up after school. And like I said, pick up has just really a lot of meanings. I'm going to show you 6 of them here. There are more than 6, but I think 6 will be more than enough for us to get the idea of what I'm talking about. So number 1, pick up means answer the phone. When I called him, he didn't pick up. Number 2, pick up means to organize or clean a room or area. For example, his parents told him to pick up his room. 3, to pick up means to speak to someone and convince them to go with you somewhere else. And this is usually a person of the opposite gender. So usually this happens where men pick up women at a place like a restaurant or a bar. So this is another meaning of pick up. Pick up also means to learn something quickly. So for example, we can say that he picks up languages very easily. It means that he learns them quickly. And number 5, to pick up also means to continue from the place where you stopped. So if we read a book to page 20, then I can tell you, let's pick up from page 20, which means let's start where we stopped, not from the very beginning, but from the middle somewhere. And to pick up means to drive somewhere, to get something, and to continue driving to another destination. So like we said, pick you up at the airport, we could also say, for example, I'll pick up the drinks on my way home. Instead, we could say, I'll pick up some food from the shop. And here are 6 more examples. So 1 from each of the examples that I already gave you. Number 1, I called him 3 times, but he didn't pick up. So this is about answering the phone. Number 2, you have to pick up your room before you play your computer. This is about cleaning and organizing. Number 3, he picked up an attractive lady at the pub last night. This means that he talked to her and convinced her to leave the pub with him. Number 4, she went to Greece and picked up Greek. And this is about learning something quickly. Number 5, let's pick up from page 52. So again, this is about continuing from the middle or from where we stopped. And number 6, I'll pick up drinks on my way home. Here, pick up means I'll buy it. I'll go there, I'll buy it, and I'll take it with me. Another phrasal verb is to talk over, and we'll use this as another example to show direct meaning and metaphoric meaning. So the direct meaning means, so if we use the particle over, the direct meaning is higher or better or on a higher level. And to talk over means to speak louder than another person. So it really shows that you think that you're better than this person. You don't even need to listen to what they're saying. You just talk louder than them. And the example is, every time I tell him my ideas, he starts talking over me before I can finish. And then the metaphoric meaning of talk over, well, the particle over as a metaphor usually means do completely, or do something from the beginning to the end, or to take a serious approach or take time to consider something. So if we say to talk over, it could mean to discuss something seriously and completely. For example, before I make any decisions, I'll need to talk everything over with my husband. Another example phrasal verb is to bring up. And here we're going to talk about the metaphoric meanings. The first metaphoric meaning is to raise a child. So a child is very young and you help this child, you support this child, you feed this child, you protect this child, and the child becomes an adult. This is to raise a child or to bring up a child. For example, I was brought up in a small town in Ohio. Another metaphoric meaning that this phrasal verb has is to speak about a topic. For example, you shouldn't bring up those kinds of topics at the dinner table. And this is a good example of how one phrasal verb might have more than one metaphoric meaning. A lot of our basic verbs in English are often used as phrasal verbs. For example, to be or to go or to get or to do. For example, we have to be in, and the direct meaning is to be inside or not outside. So for example, Kris, before the storm, you need to come inside. And I can say, I am in. Or maybe we want to go to a nightclub and you want to know if I've already passed security, if I'm inside the club. And you can say, hey, where are you? And I can answer, I'm in. We see this example used a lot of times in films about spies. Spies try to get past security and into some kind of organization or some kind of building. And when they have passed security, they usually use their radio and say, okay, I'm in. The metaphoric meaning, though, is to be in agreement about something, usually about plans. So we agree that we want to do this, or we are part of the plan. So your friend might say, do you want to go out to eat this evening? And you can say, I'm in, which means I agree, or I'm for it. Another phrasal verb that we want to look at is to go around. So the direct meaning is to pass something along its perimeter, not to go through, not to enter the boundaries of something. So around, like a circle. So if we have a big building and we can say go around the building. It means walk around the outside parts. You're not going to go in the building. You're going to go almost in a circle around the building. And the metaphoric meaning is to find a way to do something when a person or a group has already told you that you cannot do it. Or it can also mean to visit many points within an area. So using the first metaphoric meaning, for example, your father told you that you are not allowed to do something, and then you talk to your mother and she says that you are allowed to do something. We can say that you went around your father. Okay? He told you you can't, and you tried to find a way to do it anyways. And the second metaphoric meaning here, to visit many points within an area, we can say that he went around the shopping mall looking for shoes. So he went to many different points within the shopping mall. And I know that it's not a lot of information about phrasal verbs once again, because I don't want to overload you guys, and because I think that you can learn the majority of information about phrasal verbs on your own. So we're not going to talk about it more today, but I just have to say it again and again and again. Learning phrasal verbs is very important. Next, let's talk about blending and linking. And guys, we're going to spend some time on this because this is very, very important. Okay? This is another one of those topics that is going to help you tremendously in sounding more natural. Blending and linking are basically when we combine the sounds of words that are in a sentence. So one word alone might sound one way, but when it's with other words in a sentence, it might sound differently. And right now I want you just to notice how the words that you see on your screen sound similar. Okay? So repeat after me. And I know I'm not there to make sure that you repeat things. I'm not there to check you right now, but do this on your own first, and we're going to have a lot of practice with similar exercises for homework. So the first word is minute. Minute. So you should have repeated minute. And now repeat win it. Win it. Minute, win it. Great, you should have repeated both of those words. Now, let me explain why I'm saying them the same way, because you might be thinking, okay, minute, win it, what's the point, Kris? Well, win it is two separate words and minute is one word. But when we say win it, it sounds like one word, just like minute. And that's because we have a special rule about how we need to combine the sounds of the words to make them sound like one, to make them flow, to make you sound fluent. Okay? This is really one of the key things to sounding fluently, one of the key things that you can do right now. All right? So really pay attention to this part of our lesson today. Minute, win it. Tower, hour. Pocket, lock it. goddess, goddess. Planet, planet. Terror, wearer. Letter, letter. Often, often. So guys, you see, they sound very similar, almost exactly the same, honestly. A lot of them are exactly the same. But you can see with your eyes that these are different words with different letters. So let's talk more about this. The first rule is that when the last sound of a word is a consonant sound and the first sound of the next word is a vowel sound, we pronounce them as one sound. So here we have some more examples. We can say likes it. For example, she likes it. This sounds unnatural. Do you hear this pause between the words likes and it? She likes it. This is unnatural. This is like a robot. We're saying every sound of every word, and we're not blending or linking at all. Instead, it should sound like likes it. She likes it. So it really sounds like sit. It doesn't sound like likes it. Okay? This is very, very, very formal sounding because you're saying all of the letters in the words, and we don't do that in that way. Sure, we're saying all the letters in the words, but we need to combine the two words so that they flow. So again, the correct way to say it would be, she likes it. She likes it. Next, explain it. Explain it. So here it sounds like explain it. And the last one, wake up. Wake up. It sounds like wake up. Wake up. And guys, this should really change how you think about the way you speak. Okay, these rules that I'm telling you about blending and linking are very, very, very important. And I want you guys to spend a lot of time reviewing these rules, practicing these rules, and thinking about lots of phrases and word combinations that you already say, and think about where you already say all the letters and you don't blend and you don't link, and figure out a way to change that. We're going to have a lot of homework, like I said, about that, but you're also going to need to do a lot of work on your own. And there are a lot of rules. And the second rule is about unstressed pronouns. So unstressed pronouns beginning with the sound usually drop this sound after a consonant. Okay, so if it has an H that is very soft at the beginning, then we drop it. So here are some of our examples. Give her $1. Give her $1. Again, if we pronounce it very, very formally, if we pronounce it exactly how it's written, then it's give her $1. But nobody speaks like that. We want to speak naturally, and that's why we say give her $1, which sounds like give her $1. Next, is he ready? It sounds like is he ready? Is he ready? And our third example here, I told him. I told him. So we have I told him. I told him. And at the bottom of your screen, you can see how we change these different pronouns. So he becomes E, or a very short E sound. Is he? Is he ready? His becomes E's or es. For example, is this his? 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 When we say him, it changes to im or m, like I told him. When we say her, it becomes give her $1, or I told her. And them becomes m, so I told him, or give him $1, give him $1. And you should notice here that him and them can both sound like m, right? So sometimes if we say give him $1, then we won't really know if this is give him $1 or give them $1. Okay? It is confusing, but this is how people speak. So at least you'll know it's one of these two options. So here's a challenge, and you're going to want to do this for homework. And your homework is going to be to say these and record these things and how you say them and send it in the Telegram chat so that I can check you. All right? And you want to focus on blending and linking and following the two rules that we just talked about. There's more rules, but this challenge is about those two, okay? And I'm not just going to give you guys that homework assignment without explaining it a little bit better and giving you more examples. So here are a lot of examples with a lot of different sounds. So first, let's look at when we have a word that ends with a P and then connects to a vowel sound or a disappearing H sound, like we just saw. So the first is stop over at 8. Stop over at 8. So the first two words, it's like stop over, pover, stop over. And drop off my books. Drop off, and drop off my books. Okay, another example. Go to sleep early. Go to sleep early. Go to sleep early. And wake up at 7. And wake up at 7. Next, examples with T. She's not at all tired. She's not at all tired. So we have she's not at all tired. She's not at all tired. But it's still early. But it's still early. Next, we got out of the meeting. We got out of the meeting at 11:30. At 11:30. At 11:30. Okay, do you hear where they're blended? They're blended where one word ends with this T sound and the next word starts with a vowel sound. Next with D. I had a good time. I had a good time. On my weekend off. My weekend off. On my weekend off. Next, instead of studying, we rode around in the car. Next, words that end with K. After a week of tests, we took off for Hawaii. We took off. Next, when you back up, look out for other cars. Look out for other cars. Next, the trip takes an hour. The trip takes an hour. By bus or by car? By bus or by car. And the last example, the place is familiar. The place is familiar. But the address isn't. But the address isn't. All right, I hope that me saying it first, how it should be said, how it's naturally said, and then telling you how the words sound individually and how they blend, I hope this is helping you get a better understanding of it. And you'll be able to practice this in the homework. Let's look at some more examples. When's he coming? When's he coming? And where's he staying? Where's he staying? He's already noticed. He's already noticed that she's absent. That she's absent. Next, the problem is, some of them aren't here. Some of them aren't here. Next, I don't have time off. Time off. So I can't come over. Come over. Next, with in, he works in an office. He works in an office. He works in an office. On East Avenue. On East Avenue. Next, I ran into a friend. I ran into when I was shopping. When I was shopping. Next, They're renouncing the news. They renouncing. In March or April. In March or April. For information. For information. Please call her on Monday. Please call her on Monday. And with L. Tomorrow we'll ask him. Tomorrow we'll ask him. To tell us about it. To tell us. The final exam. The final exam was full of difficult questions. Was full of difficult questions. All right, so I think that's enough examples for now. Let's move forward. So far what we've talked about is blending and linking that happens when one word ends with a consonant sound and the next word starts with a vowel sound. Or the next word starts with a disappearing sound, an H sound. And then we don't say that H sound, we just say the vowel sound after it. So really it starts with a vowel sound. So we've been talking about consonant to vowel blending. But now we're going to talk about vowel to vowel blending or linking. And with vowel to vowel blending and linking, there are two options that we have usually. We can add in a y sound between the two vowels, or we can add in a w sound between the two vowels. So think of it like the letter Y and the letter W in English. So let's look at some of these examples. First of all, when we say I, free us, we are, tree is. Do you hear that extra y sound between the vowels? Another example with a, play out, say it, day is. We can also say I, why are, I am, try it. Do you hear it now? Also, we can say oi, toy is, enjoy it, annoy us. So really listen for that extra y sound between the vowels. Like I said, we can also add the w sound between the vowels. For example, with oo, like who are you? Or you ask, or through wall. Or we can say, oh, go out, know us, grow up. And we can also say, ow. So, how are, now us, cow is. And I really hope you guys hear that extra y and w sound because it's really important. And you're going to have a lot more practice with this for your homework too. So let's look at some more examples with phrases where we say these sounds. So the first one, she often works. She often works. In the evening. In the evening. Next, sometimes we argue. Sometimes we argue. And disagree on things. And disagree on things. Next, please try to stay awake. Stay awake. And pay attention. Pay attention. Next, students may ask questions. May ask. The day of the test. Day of. Next, why are you wearing? Why are you wearing? Your tie and jacket. Tie and jacket. Next, I arranged for a meeting. I arranged. In my office. In my office. Next, I enjoy eating dessert. I enjoy. After a meal. After a meal. If you annoy us, you must leave. And now let's look at some example sentences with the w sound. So, who is going to do it? Do it. The new airplane is too expensive. Too expensive. Next, if you know his number, you can call him. Although I want to go, Although why want to go, I know it's a bad idea. Next, how are we going to drive? How are we? When the cow is in the road, cow is. Next, the teacher doesn't allow us to use dictionaries. Great, I think that's a lot of examples for you, a lot of practice, and now I think you guys are ready to practice it on your own. So remember, you can send me messages in the Telegram chat, you can practice this, you can ask me more questions about this. This is a really big topic and it's really important for speaking naturally. Next, let's look at another rule for blending and linking. The consonant sound at the end of the first word is the same as the consonant sound at the beginning of the second word. In this case, when both of them are the same, then they become like one sound. We don't say them twice, we say them once, and they blend. So with a T sound, for example, hot tea. Do you hear it? It's not hot tea. That would sound very unnatural. Instead, it's hot tea. We say hot tea, hot tea. Or with an R sound, they're ready. So it sounds like they're ready, but really it's they're ready. And now I'll just tell you the rest of the examples. For example, sharp pen, or yell loudly, or black cat, or orange juice, or bad day, or beach chair, or big girl, or wash shoes, or some money, or this song, or phone number, or expensive vase. And now it would be really good if you started thinking about other words that have this combination, where one word ends with the same consonant sound that the next word starts with. So find those, think about those, and think about how they would be pronounced so you can start pronouncing them more naturally. And we have another rule. And here is the rule, that the sounds that you see at the top of the screen, so that's p, b, k, g, t, and d, or p, b, k, g, t, and d, at the end of words, these sounds are spoken at almost the exact same time as the first consonant sound in the next word. So, if one word ends with these sounds, we say them at the same time, so very quickly or very together without any space between them, the same time as the first sound, the first consonant sound of the next word, okay? So, this sounds kind of strange, and you probably haven't thought about this before, but only with these sounds we say this. So for example, cab driver. Did you hear it? It's like driver, cab driver. Or stop sign. Here it sounds like stop sign. Next, keep trying. So we say the sounds here. We don't blend them so much. They are blended, they are linked, because the first word drops this sound, and this sound becomes part of the next word almost. So we say it with the next word. Next, laptop computer, or look like. Here it sounds like look like, but we don't have a word like, and we don't have a word but that's how it sounds when we say the two words look like together. And the last one, big problem. So this is something that you also need to get used to and need to practice. So here's another challenge. You need to practice saying these phrases together, because we need to say the letters together, just like what I was talking about. So, you'll have PDFs sent to you in the Telegram chat, and you'll be able to download them, and they'll have all these challenges so that you can repeat these words, record yourself, and send them to the Telegram chat. And guys, let me remind you about the Telegram chat and the homework. You don't have to do it right now. You don't have to do it today. You don't have to do it this week. You can come back to these challenges, and you can send your pronunciation and test and practice and see how good you're doing and how much progress you're making by sending them to the chat, and I will tell you what you're doing wrong or what you're doing right, or where you need to focus your attention. And here's the second page of the challenge. And then we have yet another rule. So one more rule to add to the list. When a word ends in t and the next word begins with y, they create a blended sound of ch. And you've probably heard this before, but not really understood why it's happening. Okay? There is a special rule. It's the t plus y sound. And this becomes ch. So this is a special blended sound. So let's take, for example, we have t plus u. This will be chew. If we have t plus u, it will be chew. And if we have ch plus u, it will be chew. Or we don't have to say chew, we might also say ch. So instead of t plus u or t plus u or ch plus u, instead of that sounding like chew, it might also sound like ch. And listen to how I pronounce these examples. I'll never forget you. Tell me how many hats you want. I can't catch you. Let's take that last example again. I can't catch ya. I can't catch ya. Do you hear that sound? Do you hear the blend? When we combine these sounds with the word your, then it sounds like chur. For example, I've got your book. What's your name? Or watch your step. And if we combine these sounds with your, it will also sound like chur. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're doing. Tell me how many hats you're wearing. What's that itch you're scratching? So guys, listen really closely next time when you are speaking with a native speaker or when you're watching a video or a movie or something like that and they're speaking English. Listen for these sounds and you'll hear them. And you actually have another challenge about this. So practice speaking like this. Practice pronouncing these sounds with these combinations. And the last rule that we're going to talk about is very similar to the rule that we just mentioned, but this, instead of using t, we use d. So when d combines with y, it doesn't sound like ch, it sounds like j. All right, so to say it differently, when the d sound and the y sound combine, it sounds like a j sound. So d plus u is Jew, and j plus u is Jew. Or like we said before, not only Jew, but it might also be j. And here are some examples. Listen closely. I told you, or I'll page you. So in the first example, I told ya. I told ya. Also, when these sounds combine with the word your, it's jur. Did your wife call? Or judge yourself. And then when these sounds combine with the word your, it's also jur. For example, she said you're coming. Or George, you're here. So guys, I hope that you really understood those two last rules. They are very important for sounding natural because they are connected to asking questions. And as you can see from the challenges, the phrases that we use to practice these sounds are pretty simple. They're simple phrases. They're not difficult, they're not complex, but the sounds are different than what you probably thought before. So practice saying these and send these to the Telegram chat for homework. Now we're going to answer another question for today. How can I speak about something if I don't know the correct words to describe it? And for this, we have a big idea. The words mean nothing at all. The presentation of the words means everything. And that's a little contradictory to what I said earlier, where I said that they're equal, right? The words and the presentation of the words. But now we're really going to focus on presentation of the words. So it doesn't really matter if you know a lot of words, it's how you present them. So what can we add to your English now? Well, we need describing words. When we use describing words, it makes our speech sound more natural and more fluent because we can explain things that we don't know. That's very, very important. Learn how to talk about things when you don't know the words for them. So imagine explaining something in the simplest way possible, like you're explaining it to a small child. And some of the phrases that are really good for this are sort of, kind of, and like. Also, when you're trying to find a word or phrase, you can say something that shows that you're trying to find it. And this is a completely natural thing to do. So you can say something like, how can I put this? Or how should I put this? When you're trying to say the right thing and you're not sure if it's going to be correct. Or maybe you want to ask yourself or say out loud when you're with another person, what's the word I'm looking for? So really, when you ask these questions, you're talking to yourself about this. You're not asking this to someone else, and you're not expecting them to answer you. You're not expecting them to give you the word that you are looking for. Instead, you're talking to yourself and asking yourself, what's the word I'm looking for? And this shows that you're having a dialogue with yourself. It shows that you're thinking in English, okay? And that's what makes us sound natural and fluent. Also, when we want to introduce an opinion, we can use some special phrases. You probably know a lot of them, but here they are, just in case you've forgotten. Actually, in fact, to be honest, as a matter of fact, and the fact of the matter is. All of these are very good for introducing your opinion. And if you don't know the exact words for something, you should just use more general words. So the best example here is if you don't know how to say surgeon, for example, a surgeon is a type of doctor, so you can say just doctor. Just don't say surgeon, say doctor. Or how would you explain what a surgeon is? A surgeon is a doctor that cuts people open. A surgeon is a doctor that opens people's bodies. A surgeon is a doctor that loves knives. There's lots of creative ways that you can describe it, right? But in general, if we don't know the word for surgeon, we can just say doctor. Why not? It's perfectly fine and correct. And then later when someone says, oh, you're talking about a surgeon, then you can say, yeah, a surgeon is a doctor, right? They say, yeah. And you'll say, okay. And you'll continue. Another example is sandals and shoes. So, for example, there's lots of different types of shoes, right? Especially for women, they have all different kinds of names for different types of shoes. And I don't know all the names of those shoes. So I wouldn't call them whatever the name of it is. I would say shoes. And maybe someone would correct me and say, these aren't just shoes. These are, special type of shoes. And then I'll say, oh, okay, now I know. But in general, when you don't know the specific word, say something that is bigger. It's more like a category. Also, if you don't know the exact word, you can describe its function, like I did with the surgeon. I said what he does. And an example here is scissors. What are scissors? You cut paper with these. Okay, so it shows us what they do. It shows us their function. Or tires. Your car uses these to move. All right? So these are describing something by function. If you don't know the exact word, you can also use synonyms, words that are similar. So if you don't know how to say tiny, for example, you can say very small. Or if you don't know how to say terrible, you can say very bad. All right? This is okay. In fact, a lot of native speakers will say very, very, very bad instead of saying terrible or horrible. And if you don't know the exact word, use antonyms, opposites, okay? For example, if you don't know the word for shallow, then say not deep. If you don't know the word for cheap, say not expensive. And guys, there's only one more thing for me to tell you before I give you your homework for today and before we finish up. And that is, you need to let yourself win. All right? There are some key things. We talked about them mostly in day one, but there are some key things that you need to be doing when you're practicing and becoming more natural, and they are on the screen right now. You need to slow down your speaking speed. Stop trying to talk a million miles an hour. Start talking slower and understanding more of what you're saying, okay? Listen to yourself. Listen to the sounds that you're making. Listen to the words that you're choosing. And when you slow down your speaking speed, you'll make better choices. And as you make better choices, you'll start to understand why you were making bad choices before. You'll have more time to pay attention to that. And then you'll start speaking more correctly in general, and you'll start speaking more quickly. So slow down now so that you can go faster later. Next, give yourself time to think. All right? You don't need to always say something. there are a lot of phrases and words and filler words and things that we learned in this course that you could use pretty much any time so that you can just keep talking and talking. But you don't need to do that. Sometimes you need to give yourself time to think. And like I said, when you show people that you're thinking in English and that you're generating ideas in English and that you're having an internal dialogue or talking to yourself in English, then they're going to think that you speak English much better, because they're going to see that and feel that. You can really feel when someone thinks in a language and when someone is just thinking in a different language and translating in their head. It's something that you can really, really feel. You also need to learn sentences, not only words. And what we just talked about, blending and linking, really is about this, guys. When people learn words and count the words they know and say, oh, I just learned a new word, I don't know what that word means. Okay, sure, that's how people usually approach learning languages, and words are important for building your vocabulary, of course, but they're important for being able to talk about specific items. But in general, speaking more naturally is about learning sentences and how those words flow together. This is what might make you sound natural or unnatural. It's not going to be that you know a million words, okay? Because even someone who knows, like we said before, 5,000 words might not speak as fluently as someone who knows 500 words. And the next two are the most important. No matter what anyone tells you, these two things are the most important in learning English and in speaking more naturally. And the first one is learn to listen. When you start listening to people more and better, and when you start understanding what you need to listen for, and that's what I told you in this course, is what you need to be listening for and practicing, right? When you understand how to do that, and you should be able to do that now, you are going to get so much useful information just from interacting with people, just from communicating with people, and just from listening to what they say. So really listen for all of the things that we discussed in this course. And the last one, of course, is practice, practice, practice. And I think you understand why you need to practice. And that's why we are going to give you some more homework. And I love webinars because your dog can't eat your homework. So that means you don't have any excuses. You have to do it. So send it to the Telegram group. And here's the homework for today. You need to complete the blending and linking challenges. In fact, you need to complete all of the challenges. Okay, so I'll send them to you in the Telegram chat, and you need to complete all of the challenges. There's a lot of them. Like I said, you don't have to do them right now. You don't have to do them today. Just definitely complete them and practice them. And record yourself saying them and send them to the Telegram chat. Another thing that you'll need to record is you'll need to record yourself answering or responding to these situations. So the first situation is someone approached you unexpectedly and you got scared. What are you going to say in this situation when you get scared? Okay, this is some kind of reaction that you have automatically, right? And in your language, you have some special phrase or noise that people usually make when they get scared unexpectedly like this. And those automatic reactions and phrases and sounds really tell someone if you sound natural or not, because someone who doesn't have a lot of experience with a language, they usually react to these situations in their own language, and they make some kind of sound or noise or say a word that is in a different language. It's in their first language, not in English. And this really makes other people understand that, hey, this person isn't a native speaker, and that was weird, that was strange. Why did they say that weird sound instead of saying what we say in English? Because honestly, guys, you might not have thought about that before. You might not have thought about the fact that in your language people have these special sounds. And in English, most native speakers don't know about this. They don't think about this, that, okay, when people are scared, they usually say this. Or when people are happy, they say this, and they make this sound. So they don't know that. So you need to do some research. You need to do some research on your own and find out what sounds people usually say when they get scared. And you need to record a sentence or a reaction to this situation and send it to the Telegram chat. The second one is you haven't seen an old friend in a long time and you see him at the mall unexpectedly again. All right, so unexpected happiness. Or maybe it's even excitement. And the third one is when you forgot what you were talking about in the middle of a conversation. So what are you going to say in this situation? All right, record all of those things and send them to the Telegram chat, and I will check them. And guys, I really have to give you a big thanks, a big round of applause, because you made it all the way to the end. This is the end of day 4, and congratulations, because you just got so much information about how to speak more naturally that next time when you listen to someone speaking, when you listen to a native speaker, when you watch a film, when you watch a video online, when you have any kind of contact with a native speaker who is speaking to you verbally, then you are going to know what to listen for, and you're going to understand why he says some of those sounds that he's saying. Also, you're going to be able to put this into your own speech, and you should have started doing that already with day 1. You should have started right from day 1, improving how you sound, making yourself sound more natural, and any help that you need along the way, send a message to the Telegram chat. I'm here for you. I'm not going anywhere, and I'm going to be here to support you and to help you sound more natural. Also, guys, you can tell your friends about our Get Motivated with Kris group on Telegram, where they can get free content every day. And if you feel like you know somebody who, they might need to improve their pronunciation and they want to speak more naturally, or maybe you know somebody who is moving to the United States or to another English-speaking country, then you should definitely recommend this course to them and recommend other groups that you see on the screen right now, because there's a lot of great content. And not only these channels, but there's also a YouTube channel. If you search for English with Kris Amerikos on YouTube, then you should find the channel where I have lots of free content too, other videos and other useful things. So guys, if you have any questions, send them to the Telegram chat. I'm really happy that you guys were able to go through this whole course, and I'm excited to see the results that you get. All right, so thanks again. Make sure to watch this video and all of the other videos several times to get the full value out of them, all right? And I look forward to seeing you guys in the chat.